Hey everyone, this is Amber with Sheelin and Beth, and we are the Girls Gone Book Clubbing podcast, the show that gives you all the best book reviews, recs, and more for anyone who loves getting lost in a book.
Wait to dive into How My Neighbor Stole Christmas by Megan Quinn on this episode of Girls Gone Book Clubbing.
Every Crinkle in Crinkletown celebrated Christmas a lot, but Cole Black on Whistler Lane, unfortunately, did not. As his fellow citizens decorate their quaint town, brimming with carols and glad tidings, Cole wants nothing more than to hibernate the winter away. But his dreary plans are thwarted when his Christmas nemesis, Story Taylor, moves in next door to care for her Aunt Cindy. Immediately, the new neighbor turns his life into a real nightmare before Christmas, especially when she decides to enter the town Christmas Kringle contest in honor of Cindy. And better yet, Story is determined to win. Over Cole's dead body, she will. With help from his friend Max, Cole decides to enter the competition as well to beat Story at her own game by pretending that this hometown grump's heart has grown 3 sizes this season and he's fallen for the girl next door. And unfortunately for Story, she has to follow his lead to have a chance at the Christmas Kringle title. But the competition isn't the only thing that heats up. Cole and Story's fake relationship becomes very real, and before they know it, they're attempting to hide it from Aunt Cindy. Things get complicated, the competition gets tough, and all it takes is one single night for someone to steal it all.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. I had not read the back of that.
I never
kind of
do.
just realized it gives away the whole book. But
I know.
I mean, it's fine.
Well, that's why I never read, the synopsis of a book, because I just want to go in blind. I don't want any expectations. And I'm very glad I did not read that.
Yeah, it would have give the whole story away.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I also didn't realize the book was that thick. I liked it so much I just kind of flew right through it.
Did you enjoy the holiday rhymes at the starting of each chapter? Which was your favorite?
Oh my gosh, yes. So I just really it was a cheesy book. Let's just get that out of the way up front. But I loved every minute of it. I mean, I am one of those people that, yes, I understand Hallmark movies are the exact same movie over and over again, and I'm still going to watch every single one.
Yeah.
It does not matter. So I thought it was really cute. I mean, some of them were obviously a little bit of a leap, but it was fine. I had a couple favorites, but my top one was probably chapter 23, and the narrator says, "Where did they do it? That question is fair. In the bed, against the wall, and in the living room chair." He thrusted and thrusted and thrusted some more. He thrusted until they wore a hole in the floor. And now with Aunt Cindy back, they can only send texts. But that didn't stop Cole from sending sext after sext. It was the thrusting bit that just really got me. I read it 6 times.
I really wish I would have read the book because there's pictures.
Yeah, there's illustrations in it.
I read
Are you serious? I'm going to have to flip through that here when
I
you're
read
done.
the Kindle edition.
I did too. I'm going to have to buy it
It was
now.
a pleasant surprise.
I think this one's my favorite one. I'm going to edit it because there's curse words. Just because it's I don't know. I think it's kind of sweet. Okay. He can't keep his eyes off her. She's much too pretty and everyone can see it, even the judging committee. Will it make him lose? Will he forget how to sew? Will he only think about how well she can't even say it. Grips his penis and his bowl and can blow. Come on, can you not right now? I'm trying to focus. Narrator, says the man who keeps looking over at Story with hearts in his eyes. That's because this is a romance. Am I supposed to look at her like she's a piece of trash hanging out of a dumpster? Narrator, don't you get mouthy with me. I have control over your pants, and I have no problem splitting them so your dilly donk falls right out because, oops, I forgot to put underwear on you. And I don't like this part either. But he says, Jesus Christ. And then narrator, luckily for you, I'm allowing you to wear a thong today. So when you bend over, everyone sees your choice of underwear. Ah, F no. Narrator, too late. On with the story.
Okay, I did really love how he interacted with her.
I loved
how he interacted with the narrator.
I loved the Grinch vibes and the little rhymes between chapters. I honestly loved how this book was written. It has dual point of view, which I love. The
Yes.
narrator interactions were freaking cute and funny. And then the Grinch, the rhyming, I loved it. I ate the entire thing up. My favorite was probably chapter 22, which has a lot to do with the one that you picked from 23.
Yeah.
And it says, they pat themselves down, they gather their clothes, they turn off the lights, and upstairs they rose. For orgasms, I can't even say that word. For orgasms were upon them with a grunt and a groan. They'd beep, and they'd screw, and they'd moan, moan, moan.
That was a good one too. Like it just gave this extra vibe to the book that you weren't expecting.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, maybe she'll do like every other chapter or something, but there was one of these little blurbs before every single chapter.
Yep.
And when Cole starts talking back to the narrator, it was just so funny.
I loved it.
Favorite part of the book, or the part that stood out to you the most?
Well, I don't know that I had a favorite. I loved that he did his like sexy Grinch dance with Max. I loved that. But I really loved how he made a lot of his challenges like go back to his parents. I thought that was sweet.
Yeah, mine kind of plays in with that too. My favorite part of the book, probably, aside from like the quirkiness and the funniness and the spiciness of it, was when Cole comes clean to Story about why he hated her when she came back to town, or he felt bad, like he was mad at her, and telling her about his parents and how the day that she ripped Kringletown a new one is the day that he found out his parents died.
Which she didn't even know his parents died.
Right, and you like get
For 10 years, she didn't know his parents died.
correct, yeah,
Yeah.
So you like get his side of it, and where he's like, "This is
liked
why I was
that.
mad at you. This is what happened," and it isn't your fault, but the way that you perceived me at that time, and you just kind of rolled over me essentially because you're on this rant about how crappy the town was because you had just embarrassed yourself. And she's like, on the other side of that, she's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know that." Like she's just so regretful of how she acted, even though she didn't know at the time.
Right.
And I think it like hit home for him too, because essentially she was lumping everyone in the town into this rant, even those who hadn't laughed at her, mocked her, or whatever. So his parents are like literally freshly deceased, and she's lumped them in unknowingly with this like hate speech, and it was just like, it was sad.
Yeah. And I think that conversation, which they have on the way to candle making, which freaking cute, I love that part, but I think that's where their relationship really begins, because they're able to forgive and forget, and they kind of just make that point, well, let's start new, let's start fresh, let's start right now.
Yeah, I agree. I really did like the whole thing. It was just so cute. And my favorite was leading up to that, obviously, but it was when Story she's like, "I'm gonna drive through the snow, I can do this." Okay, well, we all know that you live in like LA or something, but she doesn't have a choice. Aunt Cindy and
she didn't want to
Taryn
drive.
are like, "Well, we're going, bye." And she gets in the car and she's like talking herself through it, and then she gets potholed. And that's just one of my favorite microtropes. Like the girl gets stranded on the side of the road, and this guy comes and saves her. And then that leads into this big old, like, this revelation kind of for both of them. And his parents died in a car crash. So the minute he sees her and recognizes the car, he's like instantly worried about her. And like the thoughts that went through his mind before he even opened the door. I just thought that was like, he doesn't hate her. He just doesn't want to like her right now.
He doesn't want to admit to himself how much he still likes her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Kringletown's Christmas Kringle contest. Which competition round was your favorite? And are you Team Cole or Team Story?
I love a good Christmas contest. I watch all the baking shows on the Food Channel in real life, and a book that has it, I'm game. I love it. One of my favorites was Cole and Max doing the Grinch inspired dance.
Absolutely.
The fact that he painted himself green and Max wore those itty bitty shorts.
Kind of unwillingly though. Max was like, "We're gonna do this and it's gonna win us big points."
And it was almost cringeworthy. Like, the scene was almost cringeworthy because you're like, oh.
yeah.
But it's so funny, and it's like, and in that scene, you find out from Cole that, like, he's like, okay, I enjoy this. I am enjoying the holiday. This is the town that I grew up in, and they embrace me, and they've always been there for me. I need to quit being a Scrooge.
Yeah.
And I love that part of it. And, like, the cringy, funny holiday part of it mixed in with that, I think was fantastically written.
Yeah, she did a really good job writing that scene. And like, just what he was thinking while he's up there lime green, like, thrusting away. And like, for him to tell Max, I'm not going to thrust. And then he, like, just goes
like,
for it
let's
at
do
the
it.
end. It was perfect.
Yeah. I'm
so
definitely Team Cole.
Oh. Was anybody not?
Well, no, to win the competition.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Her story, yeah.
I never wanted Story to win.
Oh, well, I did just because of her aunt, but...
Yeah, I mean, I did like Aunt Cindy, but
Yeah.
I wanted it to be like, it's supposed to be Story's redemption, right? Because the last time she was in it was so bad.
Yeah.
But I wanted it for Cole, especially as you figure
me
out, like, his
too,
family
because-
going forward.
Yeah,
And, like,
he
this,
was a Grinch for so long.
yeah, and this is what, I mean, his furniture was covered in his house. He was living in the attic like a little boy. Like, so I just really wanted him to win. But my favorite contest probably would have been the lights display. I just love Christmas lights, and I love driving and looking at Christmas lights. And since December 1st, me and my family have gone probably like every third night of the week to look at Christmas lights. Like, I just love it. So I would have a fun time putting up these lights and then, like, having the rest of the week or whatever, the month, to put up more lights. And I love it. Story sneaking across the snow in the backyard. And Aunt Cindy's like, you can fit through that fence hole. And it's like 8 inches wide.
She's like, Aunt Cindy, my thigh wouldn't go through that.
So that was funny. And then she's like rolling through the snow and pulling these lights off of his house. And she puts them in his own trash can. Like, that was just fun. Like, thievery level was not great, but it added to the story. It was really funny.
Well, and he saw her. Like, he was like, oh my gosh, what happened? And they're like, well, there's footprints.
And there's like a Wallard spot where she army crawled.
Yeah.
Flops over the fence, leaves a big old angel, and then she, like, keeps on going.
Yeah.
Like, it was just so funny. I really liked it.
I think I liked the eggnog competition. I really like eggnog.
I don't think I've ever tried eggnog.
Oh, I love
It's
it.
pretty good.
And I loved that Aunt Cindy was trying to do hers by memory, and it was terrible.
Yeah, she's like, put this in there.
And then, I like Cindy was not Cindy. Story was suggesting things, and Cindy was like, no, but she still did it anyway. So I don't know. I liked that.
I liked that it talks about they have to ixnay alcohol because of what happened like the year prior or something.
So it's
Amber must have been at that one.
like eggnog. I just thought we were supposed to bring rum.
This is my eggnog.
There's a splash in there. I coated the cup with it. I just sloshed it around and dumped it out.
Yeah. And it was hard to pick if you were Team Story or Team Cole, but I mean, how could you not be Team Cole? But
Yeah.
like, listen to this. This is this book, and I was like, after I'd started reading it, I was like, why did I suggest this book? Because it's so cheesy, but it ended up being really cute. But listen, the names, Story Taylor, but her name is Storybook.
That's what Aunt Cindy called her. Storybook.
Martha and May Bahuvier.
Yeah, Bahuvier.
Yeah. Because Martha May Huvier.
Yep.
Bob Krampus is
love
Santa. And her aunt is Cindy Lou. But it's Cindy Louise, right?
I think so.
Cole Black. Come on. And I loved the whole... Yes, Cole is black. I loved that so much when they were in the store. And his best friend is Max. It's actually Atlas, yeah. And Max is his nickname. And she is an editor for Lovemark Channel Movies. Like, come on.
I don't see the problem here.
And
I don't
then-
either. I loved it.
Okay, and then something else. Like the reference to the hair height. The higher the hair, the closer to the North Pole. And of course, like the whole thing is Cole has a wonderfully horrible idea to steal Christmas with his holly jolly sidekick Max to win the Christmas Town Crinkle competition. Just like the holiday cheermeister in The Grinch. So, but I liked it, I will say. I had my doubts after reading all of that, but it was cute.
You just got to go in knowing what you're getting.
Yeah. Anyway, glad we touched on that.
Your favorite trope in this book and how did it play into the story?
Probably Grumpy Sunshine, because obviously we have Cole, who's the Grinch, and Story, who is like this editor, like you said, for the book equivalent of Hallmark, and she's like writing these love stories, and it was I just really liked it. And I mean, it's not until like halfway through the book when that candy cane scene happens or whatever, and he picks her up from the side of the road, that we start to get like this other side of him. But I mean, even so, he's still kind of grumpy throughout the whole book. Mm-hmm. And I just liked that.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite trope?
Haters to lovers.
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
Any day, hand me an enemies to lovers. Mm-hmm. That's what I said. I have two. My first one was enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
I
don't know why I said haters.
Haters.
Enemies to lovers.
I mean, same thing. Enemies, haters, same thing.
Yeah.
And my other favorite trope in this book was the banter trope. Megan Quinn is one of my favorite authors, like, of all time, I will say. I have a ton of her books, and I have never read a book of hers that, one, I didn't love, and two, that didn't make me laugh literally out loud while I was reading it.
Yeah.
And I can't recommend to listeners enough to check out a Megan Quinn book. It doesn't matter which one you pick up. They're all good.
And most of them are on Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah. And then the narrator inserts. I loved those. And that just showed, like, in my head, I'm picturing Megan Quinn, like, interacting with Cole. Like, because she has to be a funny person in real life because her books are hilarious. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, then in my head, I'm just picturing her, like, at her keyboard, like,
I would love for this to be like one of the graphic audiobooks, because it would be so funny if she read her own narrator parts and then like they had like the female and male readers that in the male was like they were yelling at each other throughout this like audio. That would be so funny. Like, if I had money, I would contribute to that, Megan.
The end of the book, I started like listening to it because I ran out of time, and I loved that the audio version is like, he read his parts, she read her parts, but the narrator was British. A British man. But it was like perfect.
That kind of makes it funnier, though.
I know. It was good.
I didn't even know there was an audiobook for this one. So
maybe it was funny. Megan Quinn talking in a British male voice.
Well, I hate it when in an audiobook when you're you're at the girl's point of view chapter, and so but it starts saying like, and then Cole said this, and then it's the female narrator does the male voice, and I hate that. And in this one, it was not like that. He read the parts that were in her point of view.
I do like that.
I liked it a lot.
I have stopped listening to an audiobook that it was like the first one you mentioned, where the girl read the girl chapter and the guy read the guy chapter, because I thought that was so pointless. I'm like, this is stupid.
You might as well just have one narrator read the whole thing.
Exactly. Right. I would rather you just have one narrator.
Yeah.
The contrast is just too much.
Yeah.
So did you think the romance in this novel was spicy or minty? What did you think about the level of spice, and what was your favorite scene?
So I'm not the right person to answer this. Amber, you go.
Okay. I loved the level of spice in this book.
I did too.
I mean, going in, you have to know that this is a rom-com, a holiday rom-com at that. It is not a dark romance. You're not going to get dark romance, spicy vibes out of this book. It's a holiday romance book. It was still spicy. It still had everything that I needed in it. My favorite scene was probably the barn scene.
Oh, heck yes.
Those Poor traumatized reindeer.
I know.
Look away, Rudolph, look away.
Well, and
I
then,
hope he's grown. I hope it's not baby Rudolph.
but then you find out, like, Max heard everything.
And this just makes it hotter.
That made it. The minute I read that, I was like, yes. Max is just in the corner, like, I mean, I could always do with more spice. Let's be honest. But it was good, and like you said, it's a rom-com, so you're not getting like chuck me up against the wall vibes,
Right.
But it was a very good, like you said, it was a really good balance. And I think in total there was like, what, 2 full-on spicy scenes probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it talks a lot throughout the book, like what they're thinking, what they're sexting, that sort of thing. But my favorite was probably the very first time when she sneaks over. Well, not really sneaking, because Aunt Cindy and Taryn are at
Gone.
her, what happens to be her fake doctor's appointment.
Yes.
And it was just kind of like, I guess, gripping for me because they were both just so excited for it. It didn't even happen the first time. Like, she's straight up humping him in her undies.
That build up, though. That
Yeah.
build up, man.
I thought that was good. I liked it.
I'm all about it. I think that's why I like Enemies to Lovers so much, because it's like all this sexual tension and then
Yes.
boom.
It's the best.
I'm trying to
Nothing
find.
beats it.
I highlighted some of their sex that were really good, and I'm trying to find them
That's funny.
for reference later. No, I'm
I
just
don't know. Just so I can go back. To be honest, I didn't take a whole ton of notes on this book because I read it so fast and it was so good. I just couldn't put it down. Like, it was
Devoured
just
it.
so funny. So I'm peeping here to see if I have anything. Oh, I have a good one. They're arguing about who's the most holiday cheerified. And in one part, Cole says, "My hair is as coarse as the straw my reindeers eat."
Oh, yeah.
And Story replies with, "My nipples shine just as bright as the lights on every single house in this town." Like, it was just so funny. I laughed and I laughed. I have other funny quotes too while we're on that. I like the one from Matt where I don't even remember what part this was, to be totally honest. He said, "Oh, it was." So they're pretending like Aunt Cindy's dying this whole time, right? Like, Tara's doing her makeup really like white and shadows under her
Because
eyes.
it's going to be her last Christmas and they're trying to win.
And Max said, "It was startling. I gasped when I witnessed her rise, like an erection sprung right from a pair of tiny whities." She jumps out of this wheelchair they placed her in. And it was just, I was like, that's freaking hilarious. Okay.
I have some of their text found, and they're essentially going back and forth saying like what they love about the other one. And he starts off with, "I effing love your lips from the moment you first kissed me under the mistletoe." And she says, "I love your hands, how large they are, the length of your fingers, the calluses on your palms." He says, "Your eyes captivate me. I don't mean it in a cheesy way. It's true. When you look at me, I have this really hard time looking away. And when I'm inside you and you keep your eyes on me, it sends me reeling." And she replies, "Your voice, it commands me in a way I've never experienced. Especially when you're deep pulsing, taking every last ounce of my pleasure."
I think I did wince a little bit when I read that the first time.
It's a little cringy.
It goes on, but you get the gist.
We do.
Yeah.
I love the pulsing.
I think my other non-favorite smut quote was, it's when Cole's trying to like be out in public, and they're supposed to wear their Christmas sash, and they're supposed to be like, "Merry Christmas, good morning." Blah, blah.
I think this is
I
the answer
know.
to one of my questions later.
He says, "I curtsy for God knows what reason and say, 'Merry Christmas, dear sir, top of the morning.'"
That's my favorite.
And
Top
then
of the morning.
Max said, "Well, saying top of the morning is not the way to do it. It's Christmas, not St. Patrick's Day."
Yeah.
And Cole says, "It just slipped out when I was mid-curtsy." Like, I laughed and I laughed. I loved that bit. It was perfect.
Who was your favorite supporting character in Kringletown and why? Everybody's going to have the same answer.
I even wrote in my notes, I said, I'm so glad I'm answering this question first because I guarantee we all have similar answers.
Yep.
Number one in my heart is Max.
He's not my number one.
He's freaking cute. He's funny. He's supportive. I
But
love
now
him.
I want a love story for him.
That's what I said in my notes. I said you just read it. The scene where Max is helping Cole with his
How to be
cheerful
cheery.
introductions. That was hilarious. And then I hope Megan gives him his own book. I hope we go back to Kringle Town, and I hope we get a Max book.
I do too.
And my other one was Aunt Cindy.
Oh, yeah.
Because no holiday rom-com is complete without a crazy old lady.
Absolutely.
And she's basically their grandma.
Yeah.
And the old bat didn't even hurt her freaking hip.
So I really did like Max, but I thought that was too obvious of an answer.
Yeah.
Aunt Cindy was probably my favorite, especially when you get to the end and you find out that she and their parents planned this whole charade.
Oh,
charade.
I know.
Charade.
Charade. I don't know why I said it like that. And she never even broke her hip.
I
And
know.
Taryn's a freaking nurse.
I know.
It has no idea.
Well, and these people like left their jobs.
And
And
okay.
stories like, oh my god, you let her wash your crevices.
You're right, yes. And what was amazing, okay, so I guess like in my head, women of that age, they break their hip, they have surgery. So you're telling me when Taryn's washing Aunt Cindy's crevices, she's not looking at a surgery scar or looking like, oh, like this is healing very nicely.
Well, most
like,
people, so she was 91 years old. Most people, if they fall, like they're too old to have surgery.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
You just hope it heals back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually that broken hip is a life ender though on those old people.
But like,
I mean, they thought maybe they were playing for it.
No bruises?
Exactly. Like, it was just weird to me, but it's a
And
story,
really,
whatever.
I know.
Aunt
it's a
Cindy's
book.
pretty lively for her age, let
Pretty
alone
spry.
like you see
No.
Aunt Cindy jump up out of that wheelchair, you're like,
Interesting.
how's that hip doing? There's
And-
Cindy.
Exactly. And like she was living with Martha and May, who are very unreliable people, but
Yeah.
probably one of my favorites. Like,
I
they were my
do like
second
Martha and
favorite because they just
Matching
sneakily were
snowsuits.
in. Yeah, and they were just sneakily in every single important scene in this book.
Yeah.
So I just loved that it was two people, Martha and May.
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought that was funny.
I loved Max because he was so supportive of Cole finding his happiness. And
Max's whole family really. Like
Yes.
after Cole's parents died, they just took him in and they just
know.
loved him for who he was and they didn't push him and they
yes, gave him a job. Yeah. And then you find out like Aunt Cindy invited him over for dinner all the time.
And says would have done it more.
Oh,
if
yeah.
She would, but she thought it would be weird and kind of like scheme him out or whatever.
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah.
And he said if he knew if she let him, or if he knew if he let her, that she would have asked at least once a week.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What was your favorite bit of banta in this book between Cole and Story?
It was absolutely. I already read the quote. I messed up. But when they were bantering back and forth about who had the most Christmas cheer, and they're just like throwing these insults, but they're not really insults. They're weird, bombastic remarks about themselves. Please,
just-
extremely awkward.
Please just say them again because they're so funny.
Do we remember what chapter that's in? I would read the whole bit.
No.
Oh, I have no idea.
Because the two I read were just the last ones. My hair is as coarse as the straw reindeers eat, and my nipples shine just as bright as the lights on every single house in this town. And he even says something back to her about her nipples. Yeah, something like, "Why is that where you went with your vibe?" I thought that was amazing. Like you said, Megan Quinn just writes an amazing banter.
Yes.
And she's a very good author. I've picked up a lot of her books and read them. And every time I'm just impressed with how funny they really are. And I don't feel like it's repeated. Like the jokes are always new, the banter's always different. And this one was just, when you put that Grinch Christmas theme on it, it was just chef's kiss. Like it was so good.
Yeah. I really loved in the first time that they're in the store waiting for their sandwiches waiting in line for their sandwiches, and she purposely calls him by the wrong name.
She calls him Connor.
And then he says, "It's Cole." What? Cole Black. Cole is black. No, my name is Cole. I just love that so much. And she just like wouldn't let it go. Like, are you sure?
And I think
Pretty
honestly,
sure it's Connor.
like the deeper funny part of that is that you call this enemies to lovers, and it is. But Story turns into his enemy because when she
they
comes back
were
to town,
friends before.
yeah, she didn't know. Like coming back to town, one, that his parents had died.
Yeah.
Two, that he felt this strongly about disliking her. So when she comes in hot with this whole Connor bit, he's like, "This is why I hate her guts. Like
Yeah.
she shouldn't belong in this town. I'm not going to let her win Kringletown,"
And
which then causes her to be his enemy.
Yeah, and then
Like-
she's like, it was a joke.
And then once obviously they have this conversation, they figure it out. She's like, now I understand why that whole Connor bit was such a hard task for you. And he's like, well, yeah, like you ruined my life that day, and I just thought you couldn't even remember who I was. So it was good.
And the narrator like picks up on it too at the end of that chapter or the start of the next chapter.
Yes.
And he's like, "It's Cole. Are you sure?"
Oh, what? That was my favorite.
I'm not sure if this is considered banter between them or not. And we've already talked about it. We hit on it. But when Story 007'd her way over to his house, plucks a light bulb, falls, hits her head off the fence, and then army crawls back into her backyard. Max hears her, so they like race outside because the judges are coming and you can't be outside when they judge your lights. And they're like, "What's that noise?" And they see this huge path of disturbed snow.
Oh, what?
So they race over to Aunt Cindy's house to confront her, and she's on the couch with blankets wrapped around her, with her feet in a warm bucket, and an
Actually, wasn't me.
and an ice pack on her head. And she says, "I don't know what you're talking about. You have no proof."
The nonchalance of the whole scene. Like, I just got hypothermia. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. And then in that same scene though too, she finds out that Cole used to have a crush on her, and she was like, "What?"
Her ears perked straight up. She's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Did anything surprise you about this book?
I don't know that I was surprised, but kind of when we found out that Aunt Cindy faked the whole thing.
It just
that
seems
she
like an Aunt
could-
Cindy thing to do.
So that she
Yeah.
would get her nieces to come back and visit
Yeah,
for Christmas.
which is kind of heartbreaking if you think
Oh,
about it. She had to
very
create this big
sad.
old ploy to get her nieces back in her life that used to come see her every year.
Well, especially
Yeah.
since, like, I mean, she was like their grandma. They
Yeah.
they were closer to her than they were their grandparents. So you just didn't celebrate Christmas.
That's kind of what they
For-
say.
for
Like,
a
their
decade,
parents,
yeah.
Their parents were always at this timeshare.
Which also kind of irritates me too.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
if we wanted this wrapped in a little bow at the end, wouldn't her parents come back for like the final
I thought that
big
would
reveal?
happen.
Because if they were in on it with Aunt Cindy about getting the girls back to Kringletown, why are you still in the Caymans or wherever the heck they went?
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't really concerned about making sure their relationship was strong with their
Right.
daughters. They were just ensuring that their daughter's relationship was good,
And then
which related back to Aunt Cindy
Yeah.
and Kringletown.
Yeah.
So that was kind of
Well,
weird.
I mean,
Yeah.
because apparently no one in their family was close.
Right.
Not
because
really.
she didn't talk to her sister. She didn't talk to her Aunt Cindy.
Yeah.
I would be concerned as a parent about wanting my relationship with my children.
Not
but-
enough to not be suntanning in the Caymans.
Well, yeah,
Exactly.
because they had some game that they had to competition or something. I forget.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Bridge. I don't even remember.
Such an old person game.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any twist in this book that surprised me. I have been reading a ton of holiday rom-coms lately because it's
yeah.
December, it's rom-com era. But so Cindy didn't really surprise me. If there's an old biddy in a holiday rom-com book, she is conspiring. she is doing something.
Every Alina Jacobs novel.
Yes, there is something going on. So I just immediately was like, keep an eye on Aunt Cindy.
And when she jumped out of that wheelchair,
We knew the jig was up.
Max wasn't the only one that was like, something's going on here.
But also, did no one else in town notice? She's on her deathbed.
But did they know? Did was the
everybody
whole town?
in town?
I'm pretty sure Martha and May knew.
Well, yeah, but
I think they were all in on it.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But
Well, maybe
Cole
not.
wasn't.
Maybe just Martha and May.
Maybe.
Aunt Cindy just secluded herself for like the 4 weeks before Story and Taryn came.
I don't know. But another thing that was the thing that did surprise me with this book, and I bought the Walmart exclusive edition. I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but it has illustrations. I did not
I know, I'm
expect
jealous
that.
of
And when I
that.
bought it, it was a pleasant surprise. It is very cute. It sets the setting. It's really cute.
I'm gonna have to buy it again before Christmas and read the book because I read it on Kindle and it did not have the illustrations.
no.
I will share some pics of them on our socials.
That would be great.
Yes, very good.
And
very
we'll have to
good.
figure out if it's just the Walmart exclusive edition.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, so
We'll look
readers
into it.
check into it.
Like you said, Amber, I wasn't necessarily surprised by anything. I don't guess, but I was more upset when Cole just goes 0 to 100 with Story. Like at the very end when she rips all the lights off and whatever, 'cause she's trying to save herself because Taryn didn't do a good enough job setting up the lights or whatever, and he doesn't even give her a chance, knowing that she didn't know the first time all this that happened. And he still makes this thing of like, he just snaps on her and he's like, I want nothing to do with you anymore. Like, I'm not talking to you about this. Don't come see me, blah, blah, blah. He was just done. And I was like, well, I mean, you didn't give her the benefit of the doubt
At all.
last time. I mean, I guess you kind of did. Not real. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about it too hard. But yeah, this time he just didn't give her any time to prove herself.
Especially if this is a person that you are developing feelings for and having romantic relationships with. Like, why would your first instinct be the worst? Maybe because of his history with, I don't know.
It's just odd. I just didn't like it.
Do you like how the book ended?
I think we all knew this book was going to end with a Hallmark-worthy, big, grand gesture. We knew. But I really loved Story's dialogue at the end of the book. And she says, I love you, Cole. These feelings I have for you are unmistakable. It was as if whenever I see you, the air in my lungs is refreshed, my pulse is revived, and my soul feels at peace. I don't want to lose that ever. I thought that was cute.
I absolutely loved it. It was actually the very first Christmas book I read this season. And it just really put me in the mood, like, to read more Christmas books. Because sometimes I find it hard. And I've read a lot of the Christmas books that are out there. But I jumped into this one and slammed it in, like, a day. And then I was like, well, now I need more. So I absolutely loved it. Cheesy, Grinchy, Hallmarky. I didn't care. It was perfect.
Yeah, I agree.
I loved the nativity set that Aunt Cindy had.
Oh,
was it? Happy
the
Days?
fawns.
Yeah, and the Fonz was the baby. I loved it.
It's Story's like, be careful with that.
You have to be gentle.
I know. I loved it.
Did this book meet your expectations?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I feel like that's kind of just repeating the last question.
I know.
maybe.
I don't know that I really had expectations.
Yeah.
So it had to meet them all.
Yeah. I went in knowing it's a Megan Quinn book. I went in knowing like it's going to be quirky and funny, and I went in with high expectations, but I do with all of her books, and she meets them. So
The only thing I didn't like, I guess I can say about it, was that I really wanted Max and Taryn to get together.
I kept thinking that would happen, but she already had a boyfriend, I guess.
see, I wasn't a big Taryn fan, so I don't want Max to end up with her.
No,
Max
I kinda thought that
deserves
too.
Someone so much better.
It would have been a Grumpy Sunshine reverse.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess maybe if he could break her out of her.
I think it just would have been good.
I just really want a Max book.
I do too.
I hope we get
Very
one.
much, yes.
All right. What was our overall rating?
5 stars.
Yeah, 5 stars.
I gave it 5 too. 5
Yeah.
stars and 2 chilies.
What's your favorite thing you've read since the last podcast?
I am in my Christmas reading era, as I said before. I've read a lot of
Alina
Jacobs books lately, and there's always a crazy quirky grandma. And my favorite one that I've read recently was Elf Against the Wall. It was cute.
That was
spicy.
the one. Yes. He's like, I texted Amber and I said, makes me want to do bad things to a motorcycle helmet.
We walked away with a couple new fetishes.
Just a few. That's like, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Will not be adding to my
The
TBR.
leather gloves.
Yeah. It's if you want spice and banter to the extreme, pick up one of her books.
With a granny.
Yeah.
That one of her sets has Granny Doyle, and the other one has Granny. I think it starts with a D too.
I can't remember. And there's always like a raunchy grandma and a like prude grandma.
Yes,
And they like battle each other.
and what's amazing about her? So that was one of probably my favorite Alina Jacobs one I've read this winter. But I'm also reading right now. It's 5 books, and it's her Frost brothers, and it's about this great Christmas bake-off. And every year they do this bake-off, and one of the brothers has to be the judge. So it's literally just going down through the line of these brothers. And every single book she has ties into another one somehow.
Yes, they're all linked.
Yeah, so like the guys from the Elf Against the Wall book are like Protection, which work for the Svensons, which own this pharmatech company, which are partners with the Frost, who owns all the development areas in Manhattan or wherever it is. And it's just very lightly, but they're all tied in somehow.
They're sprinkled in.
Yeah.
That's a lot
Now,
to remember when you're an
it's
author.
hard.
Yeah.
And-
But I don't think you don't have to though.
Right.
No. I will say,
Just
the
like
Frost
that
brothers did
word.
kind of disappoint me because there was no grandmas in it.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. But
I'm
I think
reading
the
her.
grandmas, like, portrayed with the motorcycle men is funny.
I'm reading another one of hers right now. I've not finished it, but it's been good so far. Hold on, I'm looking up the title. Sleigh Bells and Slaughter.
I read that one. Is that one?
It's got a fireman in it, Beth.
That's Lilith, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I said that's the only reason you're reading it, is because there's a fireman on the cover.
It's cute. And then there's one in the Frost brothers about her sister Morticia.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is it Jonathan?
Yes.
Okay.
It was first.
Okay. But I will recommend, while we're talking about books we've read and books we are, since the last podcast, and books we're wrecking, if you want to pick up a Megan Quinn book and you've read How My Neighbor Stole Christmas, or you don't want a holiday, the Kane Brothers series, her Kane Brothers series,
Oh, it was
the
good.
Not So Meet Cute.
Yes.
I can't remember the other two.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Probably her favorite series that I've read of hers. But
It was good.
if you want to pick up a Megan Quinn, there's some recs.
And she has like a trope up there for everything. Like she has the Grumpy Sunshine, she has the fake dating, she has the
Boss.
boss employee. She has a little bit of everything. So they're good. Have you read anything delightful, Beth?
I don't know why, especially since it's Christmas. Like last year, all I wanted to read was holiday rom-coms. And this year, I can't get into anything for some reason. And I think it's because we've been so busy. I've been sick twice. Like, I just don't have the mental capacity. I don't know. But so I've been, for whatever reason, listening to a lot of thriller audiobooks. Which is weird because, like, that's not my thing, but
Murderous Christmas.
I guess.
There you go.
But so right now, I'm almost finished with You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. Yeah, I'm almost done with it. It's been pretty good.
She wrote The Perfect Marriage, right?
Yes, and her sequel will be coming out
Yeah, I'm
I need
excited
to
for
read
it.
The
But-
Perfect Marriage. I have not read it yet.
Maybe we'll do the second one on the podcast or something.
Yeah.
Well, this You Shouldn't Have Come Here is about this girl from New York City, and every year she takes a big vacation by herself, and she gets a map out, and she throws a dart. She closes her eyes and throws a dart, and wherever the dart lands is where she takes a vacation by herself for like
That's
10 days.
Terrifying.
Yeah. And so she ends up on this ranch out in the middle of nowhere. I think it's Montana. Don't quote me. And this guy just has an Airbnb on his ranch, and it gets a little spooky.
But is there cowboys?
I guess he's a cowboy.
Is there
Sold.
Is there
I
smut?
mean, I guess. Like, he works the ranch.
Amber and I have very low
And
expectations
he
for
has,
Arba.
they ride horses. So, yeah.
Sold.
Yeah.
Sold.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But do they ride other things?
Maybe horses is a euphemism.
I mean, there are parts.
Oh, okay.
So,
I can get behind that.
yeah.
All right. All right.
Anyway.
Also, since on our very first podcast, I mentioned that I was reading or working my way through the audiobooks of From Blood and Ash. Finished it. Mad. Didn't realize there was a book that was not out yet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because when
That
I
was fun.
ordered the 5-book set of hers,
The sixth one's not going to come out till June of next year.
I was so mad
Yeah.
because I was like, well, they need to let me pre-order and pick up at a Polycon because that's not fair.
April's not that far from June.
No. So I'm pretty irritated about that too.
Yeah, so that kind of made me mad. So then I dove headfirst into Throne of Glass.
Oh my
I
god.
am freaking obsessed.
But
Really, I've
heard-
contemplated picking that up and starting it.
I've heard the first 2 books, the first 3 books are like so hard to get through.
Yeah.
Book 1 was kind of hard. Book 2, I was hooked. Book 3 was great. I'm in
Really?
book 4 right now, and I am just eating it up.
I just have anxiety about committing to a series right now.
But I won't say I disliked A Court of Thorns and Roses, but I didn't love it.
What I've heard is that if you didn't like it, you'll like Throne of Glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird. It's the same author.
But
You
I
would
feel
not
like-
know that. If I covered the name of the author, you would have no idea.
Wow.
I feel like I'll have to buy them because I feel like I'm going to have to hold them to get into them. And there's a lot. That's a lot.
So I've audiobooked 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I had a very nice friend, thanks Brittany, that let me borrow 5, 6, and 7. Because
Yeah.
5 and 6 you're supposed to tandem read for it to be like the best. Because a lot of people say that, I don't know if it's 5 or 6, but the one about Chaol is apparently kind of slow. And I already hate his guts. So I'm going to need some of my happy couple to supplement this poopy head person.
See, I don't know if that I could tandem read either. I mean, I could do it because I watch TV and read, and I do, like, I can multitask pretty well. But, do I want to?
The fact that you're looking at 2 like 700-page books right there side by side is a little intimidating, but I'm going to give it a go. I have a checklist. So that will make me
And
happy.
how do you know, like, when to, like, do you read a certain chapter and then read?
I have a checklist. It tells you like 1 and 2 of EOS and 3, 4, 5, 6 of blah, 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 then it like you jump back and forth.
And who created that list?
I think Mass did herself.
Okay.
Maybe not. I'm trusting whoever did it. It's all over the internet.
I'm super into,
The
like,
internet never lies.
superhero shows like The Flash and the Arrow and Supergirl, and they have crossovers, and I can do those. So I'm sure I could tandem
Exactly.
read.
You could do it. You could do it.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. So yeah. Good stuff. Well, thank you for tuning in to this episode from Girls Gone Book Clubbin', where we covered all things How My Neighbor Stole Christmas by Megan Quinn. We'll be back in 2 weeks to discuss The Second Chance Year by Melissa Weisner. In the meantime, please don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.